Captain Finn Reeves adjusted the sensitivity on his ocular implant as he scanned the horizon of Proxima 6, the barren outpost planet he'd called home for the past 6 months. The red dust swirled in lazy patterns around the perimeter sensors, and for the 1000th time, he questioned Command's decision to maintain a presence on this desolate rock. "Captain, we've got anomalous energy readings from Sector 7, Lieutenant Asha Kumar's voice crackled through his comm implant. "It's unlike anything we've seen before." Finn sighed. Anomalous readings usually meant equipment failure in this dust bowl. "Interference from the magnetic storms again?" "Negative, sir. The signature is organic, somehow. Dr. Voss says you should see this." Curiosity piqued, Finn made his way to the research dome. The small scientific contingent was the real reason for their presence here, officially cataloging xenobiological samples, but rumors suggested they were hunting something specific. Dr. Nadine Voss barely looked up from her holographic display when he entered. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical knot, eyes reflecting the blue glow of her screens. "Captain, look at these patterns. They're pulsing in a non-random sequence." Finn studied the oscillating waves. His military-grade neural processor automatically searched for patterns, threat assessments. Could be natural phenomenon. This planet has plenty of geological oddities. It started 3 hours ago, precisely when the binary stars aligned with the northern ridge. Voss swiped through several data screens. "And there's something else, the energy signature shares similarities with your cybernetic implant frequency." That got his attention. "My implants? That's impossible. Military-grade tech is proprietary. Yet here we are." Voss looked at him with scientific curiosity that made him uncomfortable. "I think we should investigate the source." 4 hours later, Finn led a small expedition across the rocky terrain. His combat reflexes remained on high alert despite the planet's official designation as uninhabited. 20 years of military service had taught him that uninhabited often meant we haven't found them yet. They crested the ridge as the binary sunset cast long shadows across the valley. Lieutenant Kumar pointed to a narrow crevice in the cliff face. "Readings are strongest from in there, sir." Finn nodded, activating his shoulder lamp. "I'll take point. Kumar, Voss, follow at 5 meters. Ramirez, secure our exit." The passage narrowed as they descended, walls transitioning from rough stone to impossibly smooth surfaces that didn't match the planet's technological development timeline, which was to say, it had none. Civilization had never taken root here, according to the surveys. They emerged into a circular chamber, and Finn's breath caught. In the center stood a crystalline structure, pulsing with soft blue light that seemed to intensify as he approached. "Incredible," Voss whispered, scanning frantically. "It's responding to your presence, Captain." Finn felt a peculiar sensation, a pull, an almost magnetic attraction to the artifact. His hand moved toward it without conscious command. "Sir, protocol suggests," Kumar began, but fell silent as Finn's fingers made contact with the crystal surface. The world exploded into light. Finn's neural processor flooded with data as ancient symbols cascaded through his mind. His sword, standard issue for ceremonial purposes but rarely drawn, was suddenly in his hand, his grip tight around the hilt. Yet the trembling in his limbs wasn't fear. It was recognition. "I've been here before," he whispered, though he knew it was impossible. His implant flashed warnings about neural overload, but beneath the cascade of technical alerts, deeper memories stirred, memories that couldn't possibly be his. "Captain." Voss's voice seemed distant. "Your implants are fully integrated with the artifact's energy field. Your neural patterns are changing." Finn barely heard her. The crystal pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat now, and within its facets, he saw fragments of a civilization that predated humanity's first steps beyond Earth. He saw great cities spanning worlds, technology beyond comprehension, and felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. They were waiting, he said, his voice strange even to his own ears. They were waiting for someone to return. As consciousness slipped away, the last thing Finn saw was his reflection in the crystal surface, his eyes glowing with the same blue light as the artifact, filled with the weight of recognition and the beginning. Dreams consumed Finn, if they could be called dreams at all. He floated through vast cities with spires that pierced violet clouds, witnessed beings of light and purpose communicating through thought alone, and absorbed knowledge of technologies that manipulated the very fabric of reality. When consciousness finally returned, he found himself in the outpost's medical bay, sensors monitoring his vitals and neural activity. "Welcome back, Captain," Dr. Voss said, relief evident in her voice. "You've been unconscious for nearly 30 hours. Finn tried to sit up, fighting through the disorientation. "The artifact. Secure in our research facility. Lieutenant Kumar had you evacuated after you collapsed." She studied her data pad. "Your neural implants experienced something akin to a complete firmware rewrite. Frankly, you should be brain dead, but instead." She turned the display to show him cascading patterns of neural activity unlike anything human. "Your cybernetics are operating at 300% capacity, with completely new pathways forming hourly." Finn closed his eyes, sorting through the jumble of memories, his own and those that weren't. "They were called the Corinthians," he said, the name emerging from nowhere. "They achieved technological singularity millennia ago." Voss stared at him. "How could you possibly know that?" "I saw it. I lived it." Finn pressed his palms against his temples. "The artifact is a repository. A seed." Before Voss could question further, the medical bay doors slid open. Commander Victor Wolf strode in, his weathered face set in stern lines of official concern. As the outpost's military head, his interest was predictable. "Captain Reeves. Good to see you conscious." His tone suggested professional courtesy rather than genuine relief. "I need a full report on what happened in that chamber." "Sir, my patient needs rest," Voss protested. "What he needs is to explain why my outpost's power grid experienced 3 surges after that artifact was brought in, or why our communications with command have been intermittently scrambled." Wolf turned his steely gaze to Finn. "Or perhaps why 2 of our techs are reporting hallucinations of cities in the stars since yesterday." Finn felt a chill. "It's reaching out," he murmured. "Searching for compatible neural patterns." Wolf's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Commander, I can't, I don't fully understand it myself." Finn struggled for words that could encompass what he'd experienced. "The artifact contains memories. A civilization that existed before humanity crawled from the oceans. They left these repositories throughout the galaxy, waiting for species capable of interfacing with them. And you believe you've, what? Downloaded their memories?" Skepticism dripped from Wolf's voice. "My cybernetics created a bridge. I think." Finn hesitated, the truth sounding absurd even to himself. "I think they expected us. Or someone like us. Species that would eventually augment themselves with technology compatible with their own." That night, alone in his quarters and officially relieved of duty pending psychological evaluation, Finn dreamed again. This time, he stood before a Corinthian elder, a being of swirling light and geometric precision. They communicated without words, concepts flowing between them. "Your kind walks the same path we once traveled. Flesh to metal. Metal to energy. Energy to transcendence. Why me?" Finn asked in the dream. "Why now? The seed recognizes its soil. Your augmentations carry echoes of our work. Ancient experiments, genetic memory passed through bloodlines. You are the culmination of a design set in motion when your ancestors still huddled around fires, fearing the stars." Finn woke with a start, sweat-soaked and trembling. The room's lights flickered, and his personal console displayed patterns identical to those emanating from the artifact. Outside his window, the binary stars of Proxima 6 aligned once more, and across the outpost, systems surged with unexplained energy. His comm unit chimed urgently. "Captain." Kumar's voice was panicked. "The artifact, it's changing. Growing. And sir, it's spelling out your name in Caranthian script." "How do you know it's my name?" Finn asked, his heart racing. "Because Dr. Voss just translated it." "Sir, you need to come now." In the research dome, the artifact had indeed transformed. No longer a simple crystal, it had unfurled like a technological flower, projecting holographic symbols that rotated slowly in the air. Dr. Voss worked frantically at her console while Kumar and 3 security personnel maintained a perimeter. "It started during the stellar alignment," Voss explained, not looking up. "The energy output quadrupled, and then this." Finn approached slowly, feeling the familiar pull. The symbols shifted as he neared, reorganizing into patterns that somehow made perfect sense to him. "It's a key," he said softly. "And a map." "To what?" Voss asked. "To them. To where they went when they left this plane of existence." Finn reached toward the projection, and the symbols swirled around his hand like curious birds. "They didn't die out. They evolved beyond physical form." Commander Wolf's voice cut through the moment. "And now they want company, is that it?" He stood in the doorway, expression grim. "Captain Reeves, I've received orders from command. This artifact is now classified Omega level. A containment team arrives tomorrow." Finn turned, sudden dread washing over him. The Caranthian memories provided context for what containment meant: dissection, experimentation, weaponization. Everything the artifact was not meant for. "Sir, this is first contact with an advanced species. We can't just—" "Those are our orders," Wolf said firmly. "And given your condition, Captain, you're being recalled for extensive medical evaluation." As if sensing the threat, the artifact's glow intensified. Across the outpost, alarms began to sound as systems responded to invisible commands. And deep in Finn's transformed mind, a certainty formed: this was only the beginning of what the Caranthians had set in motion. Dawn arrived with an unnatural stillness. The binary stars of Proxima 6 cast dual shadows across the outpost as personnel moved with heightened alertness. Finn sat in the research dome's observation chamber, separated from the artifact by a containment field hastily erected on Commander Wolf's orders. Despite the barrier, he felt the connection undiminished, a constant hum in his augmented neurons. "Your brain activity is extraordinary," Dr. Voss said, examining his latest neural scan. Dark circles under her eyes testified to a sleepless night. "These patterns here match what we've recorded from the artifact. It's as if you're having a conversation." "We are," Finn admitted. "Not with words, but impressions. Knowledge." Voss leaned closer, scientific curiosity overriding caution. "What are they sharing with you?" "History. Their history." Finn closed his eyes, sorting through the cascade of alien memories. The Caranthians evolved on a world with triple suns, developing photosynthetic capabilities alongside cognitive functions. They reached technological singularity 70,000 years ago, merging with their machines to transcend physical limitations. And these artifacts, they left them as what? Messages in bottles? "More like seeds," Finn said, echoing his earlier impression. "Or tests. They seeded hundreds of worlds with their technology, waiting for species that might follow their evolutionary path." A new understanding bloomed in his mind. "Dr. Voss, there's something else. The Caranthians didn't just observe humanity's development, they influenced it." Voss's eyes widened. What do you mean? Genetic manipulation. Subtle nudges to our evolutionary path. Finn faced a truth that explained his unique compatibility with the artifact. Some human bloodlines were adjusted. Made more receptive to technological integration. You're suggesting they experimented on our ancestors? Created lineages specifically designed to interface with their technology? Her voice held both horror and fascination. Yes. And I carry one of those lineages. That's why. An explosion rocked the outpost, cutting off his explanation. Alarms blared as emergency protocols engaged. Commander Wolf's voice came over the comm system, all personnel, battle stations. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Lieutenant Kumar burst into the chamber, pulse rifle at the ready. Captain, we've got raiders. 12 ships, heavily armed. They're after the artifact. How could they possibly know about it already? Voss asked. Finn felt a chill of understanding. Because they've been looking for it. For all of them. He rose, military training taking over. The artifact is broadcasting its presence now that it's active. Like a beacon. Sir, Commander Wolf ordered me to move you to secure quarters, Kumar said. Belay that. Finn's voice carried unexpected authority. Get me to the command center. The outpost's defenses were already engaged when they arrived. Tactical displays showed the raider vessels, a mismatched fleet of ships bearing the markings of the Scythe Collective, interstellar scavengers known for trafficking in alien technology. Commander Wolf looked up from the tactical console. Captain Reeves, I ordered you confined. Sir, those raiders are here specifically for the Corinthian artifact. They've been hunting them for decades. Finn approached the display. And they know exactly how valuable it is. Wolf's expression hardened. How could you possibly? The same way I know their ships have Corinthian-derived tech in their weapons systems. Finn gestured to the tactical readout. See those energy signatures? They're harmonic matches to the artifact. A blast shook the command center as the raiders breached the outpost's outer defenses. Wolf hesitated only briefly before nodding. What do you suggest, Captain? They'll head straight for the research dome. Finn's mind raced with both military strategy and newfound Corinthian knowledge. But the artifact has defenses of its own, if we can activate them. What kind of defenses? I'm not entirely sure, Finn admitted. But I can feel it preparing, gathering energy. They hurried back toward the research dome, collecting security personnel along the way. The sounds of fighting echoed through the corridors, weapons fire, shouted commands, the distinctive hiss of breach charges. The raiders were inside. They arrived at the research section to find 3 security officers down and the doors to the artifact chamber forced open. Inside, 4 raiders in exosuits were attempting to disconnect the artifact from Voss's monitoring equipment. Their leader, a tall figure with cybernetic enhancements visible across his face, turned as Finn entered. The interface subject, he said, voice modulated through his breathing apparatus. Excellent. That saves us the trouble of hunting you down. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Finn warned, drawing his sidearm. The raider leader laughed. On the contrary. The Scythe Collective has recovered 3 lesser artifacts. We know exactly what they're worth, and what you're worth now, Captain Reeves. Commander Wolf and his security team formed a defensive line. Stand down and surrender, Wolf ordered. Instead, the raiders opened fire. Chaos erupted in the chamber as both sides exchanged shots. Finn dove for cover, mind racing. The artifact pulsed frantically, its light fluctuating in patterns he somehow recognized as distress. Defend. Protect. Connect. The thoughts weren't his own, yet they resonated through his consciousness. Acting on instinct deeper than training, Finn holstered his weapon and sprinted toward the artifact, dodging weapons fire. The raider leader saw his movement and aimed, but Finn was faster, enhanced reflexes carrying him to the artifact before the shot could connect. His hands made contact with the crystalline surface, and power surged through him. The artifact unfurled further, components shifting like liquid metal to form a structure that enveloped his arms up to the elbows. The room plunged into momentary darkness, then illuminated with blinding blue light as energy cascaded from the artifact in controlled waves. The raiders' weapons and exosuits failed instantly, power drained by what Finn recognized as a targeted electromagnetic pulse. The men collapsed, their cybernetic enhancements rendered temporarily useless. Only Finn's implants continued functioning, now glowing with the same blue light as the artifact. When the light faded, Commander Wolf and his team stood frozen in astonishment. Dr. Voss approached cautiously, scanner in hand. "Captain," she whispered, "what did you just do?" Finn stared at his hands as the artifact retracted its connection. "I didn't do anything," he said softly. "It defended itself. Defended us." The raider leader, sprawled on the floor with his systems rebooting, laughed bitterly. "You think this is a victory? The collective is just one group searching for these artifacts. Your military will dissect it. Corporate interests will weaponize it." His cybernetic eye flickered as power returned. "The technology of gods, and you primates will use it to kill each other more efficiently." Finn felt the truth of these words, reinforced by Corinthian memories of other species who had found their artifacts, species who had destroyed themselves with power they weren't ready to wield. And with that understanding came another revelation: the artifact hadn't just been waiting for someone with compatible neural pathways. It had been waiting for... The aftermath of the raid brought uneasy calm to the outpost. With the raiders secured in the brig and emergency repairs underway, attention returned to the artifact, and to Finn, whose connection with it had only deepened after activating its defensive capabilities. Commander Wolf had established a secure perimeter around the research dome and implemented communication blackout protocols, but Finn knew these measures were temporary at best. The military containment team would arrive within 24 hours, and with them would come decisions that couldn't be undone. "You need to see this," Dr. Voss said, gesturing Finn toward her workstation. The screens displayed his latest neural scans alongside data from the artifact. "The convergence is accelerating. Your neural pathways are restructuring to match Corinthian patterns." "Is it dangerous?" Lieutenant Kumar asked from her position by the door. "Medically speaking, it should be fatal," Voss admitted. "His brain is essentially being rewritten. Yet instead of deterioration, we're seeing enhanced function across all cognitive markers." Finn studied the displays, understanding them with newfound clarity. "It's preparing me," he said softly. "For what?" Wolf had entered silently, his expression guarded. "I'm not entirely sure." Finn turned to face his commander. "But I believe the Corinthians left these artifacts as more than repositories or tests. They're gateways." "Gateways to what?" "To where they went. To what they became." Finn struggled to articulate concepts that resided beyond human language. "They transcended physical existence, Commander. Became beings of pure energy and consciousness. And they left a path for others to follow." Wolf's expression hardened. "And you believe you're meant to follow this path?" "I believe I'm meant to understand it," Finn corrected. "To learn whether humanity is ready for what it offers." The commander stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Captain Reeves, in 12 hours, a specially equipped science vessel will arrive with orders to secure that artifact and transport it, and you, to a military research facility. I've been instructed to ensure both remain intact until then." "You know what will happen," Finn said quietly. "They'll tear it apart trying to weaponize technology they don't understand." "That's not my concern." Wolf's tone softened slightly. My concern is whether you're still the soldier I've known for 6 months, or something else. The question lingered between them, unanswerable. Finn himself wasn't certain anymore. The Caranthian memories had become so integrated with his own that the boundary between them had blurred. Yet his loyalty to his people, his desire to protect them, remained unshaken. I'm still me, he finally said. But I'm also more than I was. That night, as the outpost settled into uneasy silence, Finn sat alone in his quarters, deep in meditation. The Caranthian consciousness that had taken root in his mind guided him through vast archives of knowledge, scientific understanding that spanned millennia, philosophical insights from a civilization that had transcended mortality, and histories of countless species who had encountered their artifacts throughout the galaxy. Some had used the knowledge wisely, elevating themselves toward transcendence. Others had twisted it toward domination and ultimately self-destruction. The pattern was clear: species that sought to weaponize Caranthian technology inevitably turned it upon themselves. A soft chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Voss entered, looking troubled. I've been analyzing the artifact's energy emissions, she said without preamble. They're changing, becoming more complex. And they're synchronized with your neural patterns. She sat beside him. Finn, I don't think the military understands what they're dealing with. This isn't technology that can be controlled or contained. I know, he said simply. What will you do? Before he could answer, his neural implant alerted him to an incoming transmission, not through the outpost's communication system, but directly into his augmented consciousness. Lieutenant Kumar's voice, tense and low, Captain, priority alert. I've accessed the encrypted orders for the incoming science vessel. They're not just taking the artifact for study, they have authorization for complete neural extraction. From you. Finn felt a chill. Neural extraction was a euphemism for a procedure that would map his transformed brain in destructive detail, leaving him either dead or lobotomized. Understood, Lieutenant. Thank you. He turned to Voss. It seems the decision has been made for me. What will you do? She repeated, more urgently. What the Caranthians intended. Finn rose, suddenly certain. They didn't leave these artifacts as weapons or tools to be dismantled. They're tests, and invitations. Together they made their way to the research dome, using Finn's command codes to bypass security protocols. The artifact sensed his approach and began to pulse with increased intensity, unfurling further to reveal intricate components that hadn't been visible before. It's beautiful, Voss whispered. Like watching evolution in fast forward. Finn approached slowly, each step bringing new understanding. The Caranthians believed that true advancement comes not from dominating nature or other beings, but from transcending the limitations that drive such impulses. They reached a point where physical existence itself became a constraint. And they, what? Ascended? Transformed, Finn corrected. Became beings of pure consciousness and energy, capable of experiencing the universe in ways we can barely imagine. The door slid open behind them. Lieutenant Kumar entered, followed by 3 security officers whose expressions suggested they were acting against orders. Captain, Kumar said formally. Commander Wolf has been contacted directly by the approaching science vessel. They'll arrive in 6 hours, and they've instructed him to prepare you for immediate neural assessment. She hesitated. Sir, I don't believe their intentions are purely scientific. Nor do I, Lieutenant. Finn turned back to the artifact, which had begun projecting complex symbols into the air around it. Which is why we need to understand the artifact's true purpose before they arrive. One of the security officers shifted nervously. Sir, we're risking court-martial by being here. I know. Finn looked at each of them in turn. And I won't ask any of you to take that risk. But something larger than military protocol is at stake. This artifact represents contact with a civilization thousands of years beyond our own, one that faced the same existential questions we now confront. Kumar stepped forward. "What do you need us to do, Captain?" "Secure the perimeter. Buy me time." Finn turned to the artifact, which now seemed to be waiting for him. "I need to complete the connection." As Kumar and her team took positions at the entrances, Finn approached the artifact. It responded to his proximity, components shifting to create an interface perfectly matched to his cybernetic implants. He placed his hands on the smooth, crystalline surface, and the final barriers between his consciousness and the Corinthian repository dissolved. Knowledge flooded his mind, not in fragments as before, but as a complete, integrated whole. He saw the Corinthians' journey from biological beings to transcendent consciousness. He understood the purpose of the artifacts scattered across the galaxy, not merely to preserve their knowledge, but to guide other species toward the same transformation when they were ready. And most critically, he realized that the artifact before him was more than a repository, it was a nexus point, capable of opening a doorway to the dimension where the Corinthians now existed. The realization came just as alarms blared throughout the outpost. Commander Wolf's voice echoed through the communication system, "Attention all personnel. The science vessel Hermes has arrived ahead of schedule. Secure all sensitive materials and prepare for immediate transfer of priority assets." Finn opened his eyes, the artifact's blue light reflecting in them. "They're here," he said, his voice calm despite the implications. "Now we must decide." Dr. Voss looked at him with dawning comprehension. "Decide what?" "Whether humanity follows the Corinthian path, or..." The science vessel Hermes hung in orbit above Proxima 6 like a predator circling wounded prey. Through the outpost's observation dome, Finn watched for shuttlecraft descend, standard military transports modified with specialized containment equipment. Their purpose was clear: to secure the artifact and the man connected to it, by whatever means necessary. "They've established a secure channel with Commander Wolf," Lieutenant Kumar reported, her normal composure frayed at the edges. "2 full tactical teams and a specialized science division. They'll breach the research dome in 20 minutes. Dr. Voss looked up from her console. "The artifact's energy signature is changing again, responding to the perceived threat. If they attempt to forcibly remove it..." She didn't need to finish the thought. They had all witnessed the artifact's defensive capabilities against the raiders. "We need more time," Finn said, his voice strangely calm. The Corinthian consciousness that had merged with his own provided a perspective beyond immediate human concerns, a view spanning millennia rather than moments. "The gateway sequence has begun, but it's not yet stable." Around them, the artifact had transformed the research dome into something utterly alien. Crystalline structures extended from the central core, forming complex geometric patterns that pulsed with blue-white light. The air shimmered with energy fields that defied conventional scientific explanation, and gravity within the dome fluctuated in rhythmic waves. "What exactly will this gateway do, Captain?" Kumar asked, gripping her pulse rifle with white knuckles. "Create a junction point between dimensions," Finn explained, watching the patterns shift and evolve. "A bridge to where the Corinthians exist now." "And then what?" Voss pressed. "You cross over? Become like them?" Finn turned to face them, his eyes reflecting the artifact's light. "That's one possibility. But not necessarily the right one." The truth had come to him during that final, complete connection. The Corinthians hadn't intended their artifacts as one-way tickets to transcendence. They were bridges of understanding, opportunities for exchange between different modes of existence. Some individuals might cross over, carrying their species' perspective into the collective consciousness. Others would remain behind, bringing new knowledge to their people. The choice was meant to be freely made, not forced by military intervention or personal desperation. The dome's communication system crackled to life. Commander Wolf's voice, tense with suppressed emotion, "Captain Reeves, this is your commanding officer. The research dome has been designated a military quarantine zone. Surrender the artifact and yourself immediately, or we will be forced to take action. Finn approached the comm panel. Commander, what we've discovered here goes beyond military jurisdiction. This artifact represents first contact with a species thousands of years more advanced than our own. We need to approach this with caution and respect, not force. Those decisions aren't ours to make, Captain, Wolf replied, though Finn detected hesitation in his voice. The order comes directly from Central Command. An order based on fear and misunderstanding, Finn countered. Commander, I've accessed the Corinthian knowledge. This technology can't be weaponized or controlled, at least not in the way Command hopes. It's meant to elevate consciousness, not destroy it. Silence stretched for several seconds before Wolf responded. You have 10 minutes to surrender voluntarily, Captain. After that, we breach. The communication cut off abruptly. Kumar checked her weapon. Sir, my team can hold the main entrance for perhaps 5 minutes against a tactical squad. Not much longer. That won't be necessary, Lieutenant, Finn said, turning back to the artifact. I won't ask you to fire on your fellow soldiers. Then what's the plan, sir? Finn approached the artifact's central crystal, which had now grown to twice its original size. The Corinthians faced similar moments in their history, times when fear threatened to overwhelm wisdom. They developed safeguards within their technology, fail-safes to prevent misuse. He placed his hand on the crystal's surface, and information flowed between them, not the overwhelming flood of earlier connections, but a focused stream of instruction. The artifact responded instantly, its components shifting to form a new configuration. What are you doing? Voss asked, approaching cautiously. Creating a choice, Finn said simply. The minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness. Outside the dome, they could hear the tactical team assembling. Heavy equipment being positioned. Weapons being checked. Inside, the artifact continued its transformation, responding to Finn's guidance with uncanny precision. When the first breach charge detonated against the dome's reinforced door, the artifact was ready. A shimmering field of energy expanded outward, encompassing the entire chamber and everyone within it. The door melted away, and Commander Wolf entered first, followed by soldiers in full tactical gear and scientists in specialized containment suits. They froze at the threshold, weapons raised but not firing, stunned by the transformed environment before them. Where the research dome had once been, there now existed a space that seemed to extend infinitely in all directions, the boundaries between physical reality and something else blurred beyond recognition. At the center stood Finn, the artifact hovering above his outstretched hands, no longer a simple crystal but a complex, multidimensional object that hurt the eyes to look upon directly. Captain Reeves, Wolf said carefully, stand down and step away from the artifact. I can't do that, Commander, Finn replied. But I can offer something more valuable than a weapon or a tool. The artifact pulsed once, brilliantly, and the air before them shimmered. A portal opened, not a physical doorway, but a window between dimensions. Through it, they glimpsed a realm of pure consciousness and energy, where beings of light moved in patterns of incomprehensible complexity and beauty. The Corinthians, Finn explained. Not extinct. Transformed. And willing to share their knowledge with us, not as technology to be exploited, but as understanding to be earned. One of the scientists pushed forward, awe overcoming caution. Direct contact with a post-physical species, she whispered. This changes everything we thought we knew about evolutionary potential. Exactly, Finn agreed. Which is why this discovery can't be controlled by any single government or military. It belongs to all humanity. Commander Wolf lowered his weapon slightly. You know I can't make that decision, Captain. No, but you can witness what happens here, and truthfully report it. Finn gestured toward the portal, where Caranthian consciousness had begun to manifest in forms more comprehensible to human perception, geometric patterns that conveyed complex ideas through their very structure. We offer choice, not compulsion. Knowledge, not domination. A path, not... No, but you can witness what happens here, and truthfully report it. Finn gestured toward the portal, where Caranthian consciousness had begun to manifest in forms more comprehensible to human perception, geometric patterns that conveyed complex ideas through their very structure. We offer choice, not compulsion. Knowledge, not domination. A path, not a destination. The words weren't spoken aloud but somehow understood by everyone present. The tactical team's weapons lowered further as wonder replaced apprehension. They're communicating, Voss breathed. Direct conceptual transmission. Finn nodded. The beginning of a dialogue that could span centuries. He turned back to Wolf and the science team. This is what the artifact was designed for, not to create weapons or grant technological advantage, but to expand consciousness beyond current limitations. The lead scientist stepped forward. Central Command won't accept this. They'll attempt to seize control, study it in isolation. They can try, Finn said with quiet confidence. But the Caranthians designed their artifacts with safeguards. This portal will remain open for 72 hours, long enough for representatives from all nations to witness it. After that, the artifact will go dormant until humanity is ready for the next step. Wolf studied him for a long moment. And you, Captain? What happens to you? It was the question Finn had been asking himself since the first connection. The Caranthian consciousness that had merged with his own offered a path to transcendence, the opportunity to shed physical form and join their collective. Part of him yearned for that transformation, the freedom from biological limitations and access to knowledge spanning millions of years. But another part, the human soldier who had sworn to protect his people, recognized the value of remaining as a bridge between worlds, someone who understood both perspectives and could guide humanity toward its own unique path of development. I stay, Finn decided, feeling the rightness of the choice settle within him. As an intermediary. Someone who can translate between what we are and what we might become. The Caranthian presence in the portal shifted in patterns that somehow conveyed approval. They had not created their artifacts to assimilate other species, but to offer partnership, each civilization bringing its unique perspective to a greater whole. Commander Wolf holstered his weapon entirely, a symbolic gesture that his soldiers hesitantly followed. I'll need to report this. All of it. I'm counting on it, Finn said. The more who know, the less likely this discovery can be controlled or suppressed. As the initial shock faded, scientists and soldiers alike began to approach the portal cautiously, drawn by curiosity and wonder. The Caranthian consciousness responded to each observer individually, offering glimpses of understanding tailored to their capacity to comprehend. Finn watched, the trembling in his limbs now a familiar sensation, not fear but recognition. Recognition of humanity's potential and the long path still ahead. Recognition of the choice each person would eventually face, between clinging to limitations and embracing transcendence. Recognition that evolution continued beyond biological form, into realms humanity was only beginning to imagine. His sword hung at his side, no longer needed as a weapon but transformed, like himself, into a symbol of the bridge between worlds. What happens next? Gar. Voss asked, standing beside him as they watched the exchange of knowledge begin. Finn smiled. We learn. We grow. We prepare. He looked toward the portal, where human and Caranthian consciousness had begun their first tentative dialogue. And eventually, we join them among the stars, not as conquerors or supplicants, but as equals who took our own path to the same destination. The artifact pulsed in rhythm with his thoughts, its light no longer alien but familiar, the illumination of recognition, understanding, and the first steps toward a transcendence